Good morning. All right, so your study guide should be completed and you're going to go through the video and watch to see how you did. All right, direction number 1, name one pair of adjacent angles and one pair of vertical angles. So when you take your test tomorrow, make sure to give me one of each. So when we're talking about adjacent angles, we're talking about angles that share a vertex and a side. So there were lots of choices that you could have had. I'm going to choose angle TQP and angle PQR. Now, if you didn't choose those, you could have chosen angle PQR and RQS. You could have chosen TQS and RQS, as long as they're sharing a side. All right, for our vertical angles, so those are the angles that are opposite each other. Let me choose the different colors. So vertical could be angle PQR and angle TQS. Remember, the vertex goes in the middle of the name, so PQR is vertical to TQS. So if you did not choose those two, then you could have chosen PQT and RQS. Looking for adjacent angles. So I'm going to choose I'm going to choose YUX and YUZ. Adjacent, they have to share a vertex and a side. So X, U, Y, and angle YUZ. If you did not choose those two, you could have chosen ZUV and VUW. You could have chosen XUW and VUW. Lots of choices for adjacent. All right, so vertical, remember vertical angles have to share the same measure. Those are going to be congruent angles. So what I'm looking at is YUX and VUW. Angle YUX is vertical to angle VUW. All right, moving on. Tell whether the angles are adjacent or vertical and then find the value of X. So they're looking at this angle and this angle. Well, those two angles clearly share a side, so those are going to be adjacent. So angle type, adjacent. These two angles together form a straight line, which is 180 degrees. So your equation should say X plus 34 equals 180. This is a one-step equation, so you're going to subtract 34 from the left, subtract 34 from the right. X equals 146 degrees. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. So these two angles clearly share a side. So again, those are going to be adjacent. And to find the value of X, right here, this is a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to say X plus 74 equals 90. One-step equation, draw your mirror, subtract 74 from the left, subtract 74 from the right. X equals 16. X equals 16 degrees. So if I'm going too fast, you can pause the video, you can back it up, move it forward. All right, so here we're looking at this angle and this angle. So since those two angles are opposite each other, those are called vertical angles. Make sure you're making any corrections to your study guide if you made a mistake. Since those two angles are congruent, they're going to have the same measure. I'm going to say x plus 10 equals 59 degrees. Those two angles have to be equal to each other. So I'm going to draw my line, subtract 10 from the left, subtract 10 from the right. X equals 49. So 49 degrees. Tell whether the angles are complementary, supplementary, or neither. So first of all, remember complementary means that the sum of the angles measures is 90 degrees. The sum of supplementary is 180 degrees. It says, then find the value of x. All right, so the first thing that I see is that these two angles form this straight line. That straight line equals 180 degrees. So I'm going to say that those two angles together total 180. So my equation will say 2x plus 5 plus 75 equals 180. Draw your mirror. Combine like terms. So I see I have 5 and 75. So 2x plus 80 equals 180. Undo your addition. 2x equals 100. Divide both sides by 2. X equals 50. So 50 degrees. And I'm going to make this a little bit smaller and scooch it over there. Okay. And the first question was tell whether they're complementary, supplementary, or neither. So since they form a straight line, these would be supplementary. Number 7. So right here, I see a 90-degree angle. So since these two angles together form 90 degrees, those are complementary. So I'm going to say x plus 3x minus 6 equals 90. Draw your mirror. Combine like terms. 4x minus 6 equals 90. Undo your subtraction. Add 6 to both sides. 4x equals 96. Divide both sides by 4. X equals 24 degrees. Draw a triangle with angle measures of 35, 65, and 80 degrees. Okay, so I've actually also uploaded the study guide. So since I can't really draw those with a protractor on my iPad, I'm going to have you look at the PDF of the study guide that I uploaded for numbers 8, 9, and 10. So find the value of x, then classify the triangle, and show all work. So notice that there are 2 lines for triangle classification. So first we're going to classify the triangle based upon the angle measures. So I can clearly see that this angle up here is going to be obtuse. So this is going to have to be an obtuse triangle. I also see that all 3 sides are different measures. If I took my ruler and put it on my paper, I would determine that all 3 sides are different lengths. So when that happens, that's called scaling. Find the value of x. So the sum of the measures of all triangles is 180 degrees. So I'm going to have x plus 40 plus 25 equals 180 degrees. Draw your mirror. Whoopsies, didn't mean to do that. Well, my goodness. Okay, so combine your like terms. So x plus 65 equals 180 degrees. Undo the addition, subtract 65 from both sides. X equals 115 degrees. Number 12. All right, so right here up in this corner, we see a right angle. If it's a right angle, it has to be a right triangle. And then I see my tick marks on two sides. That means that those two sides are congruent. When a triangle has two congruent sides, it is called isosceles. So now we're going to find the value of x. Well, I know that I have one 90-degree angle and two angles that measure x. So x plus 90 has to equal 180 degrees. Combine like terms. 2x plus 90 equals 180. Undo the addition. 2x equals 90. Divide both sides. X equals 45. So x equals 45 degrees. Number 13. So we're going to classify the triangle. So I can see that all angles are acute. If all three angles are acute, it's called an acute triangle. I also see tick mark, tick mark, tick mark on all three sides. If all three sides are congruent, that's called equilateral. All right, so I have x minus 20 plus 60 plus 60 equals 180. So I'm going to combine all of these terms. Well, 60 and 60 is 120, and 120 minus 20 is 100. So x plus 100 equals 180. Subtract 100 from both sides. And x equals 80. So that third angle is going to measure 80 degrees. Okay, moving on to quadrilaterals. So you should have named the first one a rhombus. Second shape is a kite. Now these directions say write an equation and solve for x, and it says show all work. All right, so I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. Now for a quadrilateral, the sum of all of the angles is 360 degrees. So here I'm going to have x plus 135. I'm going to make that a little smaller. Okay, so x plus 135 plus 135 plus 45 equals 360. Now remember, you can use your calculator on these, but you still have to show me what you're doing on the paper. So if I combine all of my like terms, I'm going to have x plus 315 equals 360. Oops, sorry about that. Equals 360. Subtract 315 from the left, subtract 315 from the right. Those are going to cancel. X equals 45. 45 degrees. All right, so I have a 90-degree angle here and a 90-degree angle here. So I have X plus 90 plus 90 plus 35 equals 360 degrees. You can use your calculator to help yourself with the math, but you still have to write on your paper everything that you're doing. So you're going to show me, oh my goodness, why does that keep sliding? So you're going to show me that you've added those together, and the sum of 90, 90, and 35 is 215. Then you're going to subtract 215 from both sides. You can go to your calculator to subtract. 360 minus 215 is 145 degrees. Oh my. What is happening here? All right, so 145 degrees. Okay, going into scale. Use the scale factor 1 to 20 to find the missing dimension. Show your work. Okay, so we have just these two items. So basketball player. So I'm going to put number 5 down here to organize my work. So it says use the scale factor of 1 to 20. So 1 to 20 would equal X to 90. Cross products, 20X equals 90. Divide both sides by 20. You can divide on your calculator, and that says 4.5. So the actual basketball player is 90 inches tall, but the model, the little figurine of the basketball player, is only 4.5 inches tall. Number 6, we clearly cannot have a life-size dinosaur in our living room because that would be way too big, but we could shrink it down. So 1 to 20 equals 3.75 to X. Cross multiply. Multiply 20 times 3 and 75/100ths, and you get 75. So in reality, we would have a 75-foot dinosaur, which would not fit in our room. But if we shrunk it down to scale, it would only be 3 and 75/100ths feet. Directions. Draw a quadrilateral with the given descriptions. Okay, so these are a couple more problems that you're going to have to check the PDF and go ahead and look at my quadrilaterals that I drew. Make sure that you are labeling on your test tomorrow. Make sure that you label your 2-centimeter sides, and make sure that you labeled your 2 50-degree angles just like I did. Number 8, be sure that you labeled your 65-degree angle and your 5-centimeter side. All right, number 9, a square is always a rectangle. A square is sometimes a rectangle, or a square is never a rectangle. So remember that paper that I gave you about a week and a half ago that has all the descriptions of quadrilaterals. So you might want to go to that paper and look at the classification of a square versus a rectangle. And you should have determined that a square is always a rectangle. A rhombus is always a square, a rhombus is sometimes a square, or a rhombus is never a square. That one should have been filled in with sometimes. All right, so fair game review. So I have a 3-digit number on the left and a 3-digit number on the right. I can actually drop that to make that a 2-digit number. So what I'm going to do, I always like to put the number with the most digits on the top of my math problem. So 6 32/100 times 9/100. So 9 times 2 is 18. 9 times 3 is 27, plus 1 is 28. 9 times 6 is 54, plus 2 is 56. Now, go back and look at how many digits you had behind the decimal. You had a 3, a 4, a 0, and a 9, all behind the decimal. So that means you need 4 digits behind the decimal. So that product should be 5,688 10,000ths. All right, last one, divide 32 3/10 by 8/100. First thing, move your decimal twice, add a 0, move your decimal twice. So in your answer, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 digits. So 8 cannot go into 3. 8 times 4 is 32. 8 cannot go into 3. Drop your next 0. 8 times 3 is 24. Add a 0 behind the decimal. 8 times 7 is 56. Add a 0. And 8 times 5 is 40. So your quotient should be 403 7/500. All righty, folks, that's it.